দর্শক আমন্ত্রণ আরটিভির নতুন আলোচনা অনুষ্ঠান ফোর্থরাইটে আপনাদের সঙ্গে আছে আমি সৈয়দ আশিক রহমান। এই অনুষ্ঠানে আমরা কথা বলবো বিভিন্ন সেক্টরের বিশেষজ্ঞদের সাথে যারা তাদের অভিজ্ঞতা উদ্দেশ্য নিয়ে আলোচনা করবেন। আমাদের আজকের অতিথি বাংলাদেশে নিযুক্ত জাতিসংঘের শরণার্থী বিষয়ক সংস্থা UNHCR এর কান্ট্রি রিপ্রেজেন্টেটিভ Stina Lungdell. Very welcome Miss Stina Lungdell at RTV studio.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, how long have you been in Bangladesh and how do you find it here?
Well, I've been here for about a little bit more than a year and a half, and as I've told you on many previous occasions, I have totally fallen in love with Bangladesh.
Oh, great.
And as you see, I'm dressed in now saris and the beauty of Bangladesh.
Simply beautiful. How long you are working with this UNHCR?
I have been working there for almost 20 years.
Before Bangladesh, where you served?
Before Bangladesh, I was in Geneva. Before that, I was actually on loan to UNICEF in New York. And before that, I have also served in Hong Kong, Turkey, Africa, and Kosovo.
Actually, it's a long way you have passed.
So maybe I have to stop my career after Bangladesh, because what could be better?
Great. Please explain to our audience who is a refugee?
In international law, there is a specific meaning of being a refugee. It is someone who not necessarily want to leave their country, but they are more or less forced to flee the country because they are fleeing from persecution and they are crossing an international border.
Would you please tell us on global role of UNHCR?
Well, globally, UNHCR is established to help and assist refugees all over the world, to assist them, to help them uphold and protect their legal rights. But ultimately, it is, of course, to make sure that they can return in safety and dignity. Because we all love our country. We all want to return at one point. We have many colleagues from Bangladesh who have served 20 or 30 years for the organization. But when they retire, they come back to Bangladesh. Or, you know, they come back to Sweden or wherever country you are from. Refugees also, almost all of them, really want to go back to the homeland. And that is the ultimate goal of UNHCR, to make sure that they go back.
What is the difference between refugee and asylum seekers and an immigrant? What is the difference in between them?
Yeah, like I said, a refugee is someone who is fleeing for a well-founded fear of persecution and cross an international border. They are actually technically a refugee the minute they cross the border. But many countries have national law that when you cross the border, you apply for asylum. And before it has been witnessed or declared that you are a refugee, you are called an asylum seeker. You apply for asylum, and before a decision is reached, you are an asylum seeker.
Well,
and if you are declared a refugee, you are a refugee. But normally you become a refugee when you cross the international border, because the declaration of refugee status is declaratory. It's not. It doesn't constitute the refugee.
Well,
And an immigrant is something very, very different. They don't have a well-founded fear of persecution. They want to go, maybe because of economic reasons. Maybe they have a girlfriend in another country or a boyfriend, you know. They want to go, and that they can come back to their country at any time. So they are immigrants.
Bangladesh has once been a refugee-producing country itself. Please tell us a bit more about it.
The tragic events that happened in 1970-71 during the Liberation War, when you saw millions of people fleeing and were killed, and it was horrendous. At that time, 10 million people came to India. And can you imagine 10 million people across the Indian border? It was enormous. Enormous. UNHCR was appointed by then the Secretary General to assist the Indian government in coordinating the relief effort. But there was really, inside India, it was coordinated by Indian government themselves. But UNHCR, we helped raise awareness and also to raise funds for this huge relief operation.
What is the present situation?
Refugee flow out of Myanmar continues. We have hundreds, if not thousands, coming on a monthly or tri-monthly basis. It's sometimes we get a lot of people every week, and sometimes it slows down. But there has been a trickle, and even though the border are officially closed, they are so long and they are difficult to guard. So we know that people are coming in. Because the situation is not good in Myanmar, unfortunately.
What are some of major challenges in presence?
We have a lot of challenges because we have never ever, since the Second World War, have so many displaced people. We have so many wars in almost every continent. We have hired more people than we have hired since we were created in 1950s. We have a bigger budget than ever, but still, we don't have enough resources and enough staff. So we are now seeing a financial crisis, and we are asked, every operation, even us in Bangladesh, we are asked to reduce and to make sure that every dollar that the donor country gives to us are really used in the most efficient manner possible.
Well,
but we are overwhelmed. We have millions and millions of refugees in Africa. New conflicts are pregnant. ISIS, Boko Haram in Nigeria, Mali, Central African Republic, Syria is of course the biggest
now Syria is the biggest challenge.
But even Ukraine, Democratic Republic of Congo, South Sudan, hundreds of thousands, and sometimes Somalia still have a few million displaced. And in Myanmar, we have also, more than 1 million refugees and IDPs. And that's just around the corner for you. So
there is a lot of challenges you are telling.
A lot of challenges.
Well, Stina, how can Bangladesh draw more attention to international community to ensure a durable solution, especially for the Rohingya?
Yeah, I think Bangladesh has done a really good job for the last 5 years, because before it was almost unheard of, this Rohingya problem, and regionally, and it was almost seen that it was a problem in Bangladesh. And that was really wrong. And I think Bangladesh has done a really good job of really putting Rohingya on the top news story. We actually had our spokesperson who wanted to come here, but because of the political situation, we thought it was better that we wait a little bit. But Rohingya is a top topic now in press briefing, in Western world. And it is generally accepted that it's not Bangladesh's problem. It's not the problem of Thailand and Malaysia. The root causes for this lay in Myanmar. And without Myanmar on board, we can never find a durable solution. We have to have discussions with Myanmar, with Bangladesh, with Indonesia, with India. We have now tens of thousands of people fleeing to Rohingyas, fleeing to India, and also to Nepal. But if we don't have a solution in Myanmar, more people would just come. So before we start to talk about durable solution, we have to fix the outflow in Myanmar.
Stina, we'll talk more after a small break. দর্শক দেখছেন RTV নতুন আলোচনা অনুষ্ঠান ফোর্থরাইট। এই পর্যায়ে নিচ্ছি বিরতি, ফিরছি একটু পরেই। সে পর্যন্ত আমাদের সাথেই থাকুন। দর্শক, আবারও আমন্ত্রণ ফোর্থরাইট অনুষ্ঠানে। আজকে কথা বলছিলাম বাংলাদেশে নিযুক্ত জাতিসংঘের শরণার্থী বিষয়ক সংস্থা UNHCR এর কান্ট্রি রিপ্রেজেন্টেটিভ স্টিনা লুন্ডেলের সঙ্গে। UNHCR has launched a campaign last year to eradicate statelessness within 10 years. Who are statelessness?
Well, the stateless persons is the person who doesn't belong to a state, who have no nationality. And it is true, we launched a campaign because we think that this is actually a problem we can fix fairly easy if the political will is there. Because it is very sad for people who have no nationality, because that means they have no protection of a state before. And often stateless person also therefore have problems to go to school, to seek help. If they have their rights violated, they sometimes don't have access to legal status, to legal redress with the police, etc. So to be stateless is to be very, very vulnerable.
Any stateless person in Bangladesh?
You had a dilemma after the Liberation War. There was a huge operation to repatriate Bangladeshis from Pakistan to Bangladesh, and people who were living in Bangladesh who wanted to live in Pakistan. But not everybody was accepted back and forth, or didn't, for other reasons, didn't make it on that. So there was about 300,000 people here that were called stranded Pakistanis, or they were living in the Geneva camp. Today we refer to this community as Urdu-speaking community. And they were in limbo because they were not Pakistani and they were not Bangladeshi. 27 countries in this world, women cannot confer nationality. So if you are born, if you as a woman give birth to a child and your husband is dead or unknown, this child can be stateless. Exactly. Now, Bangladesh also there took measures and said, no, women can confirm Bangladeshi citizenship. And that law, I think, was in 2009. And I would assume that that will also remain now when you're doing a revision of your nationality law. But there's a third issue in Bangladesh, and this third issue, and this is the enclaves. You know, there is a little pots of land that belong to Bangladesh that are inside India. And in Bangladesh, there are little villages, pots of land in Bangladesh that belongs to India. And I understand...
It's called Sit Mahal.
I understand that Bangladesh and India are trying to work out how you will swap this thing. I just hope that in this swap, we make sure that there is not individuals who fall between the cracks, that suddenly live in India, but they are not Indian citizens, or Bangladesh who live here, but are not Bangladesh. So I hope that that will be worked out in the bilateral...
We hope also that it will be worked out and the problem will be solved soon. Stina, as you said, what are the others part or your experience in other countries?
Well, my first job with UNHCR, I was an intern in Geneva, but my first real job was in Hong Kong, where I worked with the Vietnamese boat people. They came fleeing a very poor Vietnamese state. But so the big issue in Hong Kong was to decide who is a refugee and who is an economic migrant. Because not everybody had a well-founded fear of persecution. They came because they were poor. But some people who came had been taken up and sent to labor camp as the North-South Vietnam War came to a close, and it depending on the families, on your legions or political opinions and parties, etc. But we had some people who had suffered tremendously and were clearly qualifying for refugee status. But the vast majority were economic migrants who eventually had to return to Vietnam. And we had a huge voluntary repatriation program going on in Hong Kong from the camps. And they returned to Vietnam. And today, I believe
they're living well.
Most of the... Yes, because Vietnam now has economically improved so much.
They're improving day by day and coming up.
Yeah. So they are very... So that was a big...
achievement.
Yeah, it was a big... I was spent four years as a lawyer appealing and determine who is a refugee and who is not a refugee. So that was a very, very interesting... And I also worked in Turkey. With the Kurdish population, mainly, fleeing from Iran and Iraq at that time. At that time, Saddam Hussein was in power in Iraq.
That time you worked?
When I was in working in Turkey. And some stories that came from there was, one time there was a woman who worked in the opposition, and they had taken her 9-month-old baby, and they had burned cigarette.
9-month-old baby.
They took cigarettes and they burnt the baby with cigarettes in his feet to make
my
the
God.
mother talk. And she talked.
How
And,
cruel it was.
How couldn't she? So she disclosed the name of the other people in the opposition, and as a consequence, the opposition leaders were all killed. And so now they looked for her as well as the government. And there she was, completely destroyed with her baby.
Very sad.
So
Well,
this is the stories that goes into your heart and you'll never forget.
Oh, never forget. Stina, what are the challenges working for UNHCR personally?
I think the challenges are to stay, not to become cynical, because you hear so many terrible stories and your heart is going out. But the day when you dismiss them, it's time for you to go for another job. Because if your heart is not in the right place and you don't get your energy and passion to help people,
And you have to work again
then,
and exactly.
yeah, that is a challenge. But the good thing is that you don't stagnate. You go from one operation to another operation,
operations.
and you bring your experience with you, and you said, this worked in this operation, maybe I will try this approach
Right.
here, etc. So it's very, very rewarding.
And
But,
personally,
personally, it's hard for families. I think I
Families.
have known 15 international schools. I'm lucky I have
15
4,
international school.
because I have 4 beautiful daughters.
Great.
And
Fantastic.
but it is sometimes hard for them to move and move.
They are
and
missing
move.
you or
Yeah.
sometimes.
And I'm
or-
traveling and like that. But also, it's the same thing that, you know, sometimes when you feel really broken down, you go, I have worked with misery, human misery, for more than 20 years. Maybe I like to work with something beautiful. Maybe, you know, beautiful
Beautiful
t-shirt,
shari work.
beautiful jewelry. So who knows? Maybe Bangladesh is my last UNHCR operation, and after that I will go and work with something more positive. Because it's true, it can wear you down. But you have to have the passion. If
There
you
is some
don't,
good
you will
remembrance and
Yes. Yes.
inspiration also
Yeah.
from some corner, I believe. You get-
Absolutely.
And you know, world need people like you, who is working for the people. It's a very difficult job, but everybody is giving thanks to you, or who are the people working like you. They are doing the great job.
Thank you very much for the nice words.
We are almost end of this program. Any final thought you want to share with our viewers?
Well, I would like to share with the Bangladeshi, but like I said, I think the Bangladeshi hospitality are really commendable. It is true that you have all these hundreds of thousands of people pouring in to a already poor region in Cox's Bazar district, but I must say that every time I go to the host community, I can't believe how nice the host community are. They have very little rice, but they share the rice.
Great.
You know, and this is the beauty of mankind. They say we are poor, but these people are even worse.
And there is the hope.
And
there
this
is
is
the
the
hope.
beautiful. So I would like everybody to have that. Share whatever you have with these people, because they're not coming into Bangladesh out of free will. They would like to be in the home village, but they cannot.
Great, great. Thank you very much for your nice word and for being with us.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
দর্শক, বিশ্বজুড়ে চলমান রাজনৈতিক অস্থিরতা, যুদ্ধবিগ্রহ এবং অভ্যন্তরীণ বিভিন্ন ইস্যুতে শরণার্থী সংখ্যা বেড়ে চলেছে। জাতিসংঘের শরণার্থী বিষয়ক সংস্থার 10 বছরের গৃহীত পদক্ষেপে আমরা প্রত্যাশা করছি শরণার্থীদের জাতিহীন পরিচয় মুছে যাবে, আর কোনো ঘটনাই যেন শরণার্থী মানুষের সৃষ্টি না হয়। এই প্রত্যাশা শেষ করছি আজকের ফোর্থ রাইট। এতক্ষণ আমাদের সাথে থাকার জন্য ধন্যবাদ।